Hi there, welcome to In Conversation with Aspire Solutions. As you guys know, the podcast is an opportunity for us to talk about relevant things within the company, speak to our staff a little bit. And so it happens that I've got two of my staff members with me, it's Raisa and Veruska, and they had just recently attended a conference for women in ICT. And as it's something that we feel quite strongly about, I thought it was a good idea to bring them in and just chat a little bit about what happened in the conference, but even broader than that in terms of the landscape within the technology space. Guys, just by a little introduction, perhaps your name, your role, things that you like, things that you don't like. Raisa.
Hi, my name is Raisa. I'm a full stack development intern, and I never thought I would do IT.
Yeah.
Here I am.
There you go. And how long have you been with Aspire now?
About 9 months.
9 months. Veruska, little intro from your side.
Veruska, been here for nearly 16 years now. I think I'm part of the fossil group now. Yeah. And I'm a senior GIS technician, but we obviously wear various hats in Aspire, so I have various roles as well.
So in a way, if you actually think about it, we're sitting here with somebody who's been here 9 months and somebody who's been here 16 years. Okay, this company's only been going for 18, so you've seen a lot of change in the stuff in between the company. And then Raisa, from her experience as a new intern, is just coming into the company. So guys, I think the focus is trying to be on women in technology, women in ICT. We definitely see the challenges of getting young girls, women involved in ICT. And if you look at the numbers, it's still very skewed. And I think there's still a big opportunity for getting more women into ICT. Was that the message from the conference? Was the conference slightly different, Veruska?
No, that definitely was the message from the conference. I think they actually gave stats where it was 40% or 45% that they mentioned of women who are still filtering into the sector. Okay. It is majority male driven. But what was nice about the event was that, there was 150 women invited, and they all had various different backgrounds within IT. The feeling for the day was that your career doesn't start fresh, you pivot into a different avenue.
And Raisa, within the context of your class at the Technicon, do you have a feeling for how many women you guys are in the class?
It was a little.
Little?
Yes, there's 20% that is females. Really? 20%, even at the event, it was, there weren't many young women. Yes. It was people in other roles, yes, and that have a career instead of young school people trying to find a IT career.
Yeah, and I guess that does make it slightly difficult because if you look at your studies, in group work, do you find, and maybe this is a slightly controversial question, but let me ask it anyway, do you find that the men tend to want to, in group work, take over the reins of the projects, or what is your experience with that?
In every subject that we had, it was group work. Yes. All the time. So majority of the time, I was the only girl in the group.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. And they tend to want to be the leader, yes, but there's no creative side or proper planning.
So it's an interesting thing because I had first-hand experience with that. Raisa is also part of the Aspire Academy, which we tack on to the side of Aspire to assist beyond the formal course that you're doing. We assist with trying to get you to be a full-stack developer as quickly as possible. You brought one of your projects to the table at one of those sessions, a group work project, and the sense was, and again, that's not to say it's just men, but particularly the guy that took over the project, that there wasn't a lot of structure, he wasn't dividing the work properly, and you were very confused about what it is you would take in terms of your role. What I will say is that, and this is relevant, is that, that thing speaks to not only probably a gender bias, but also leadership. What is a leader and how do you lead? Okay, now leadership is not necessarily the person who makes the biggest noise. Okay, and I think that's the thing that I want to say to you, because what I saw from you in that is that you took your role in it and you said, well, if there's no structure around me, I'm going to structure my role. And from that, you actually create leadership. Okay, so in a way, you became a bit of a leader in that exercise. Veruska, have you had any experience of like let's call it male-dominated issues?
I think because I have a strong personality, sometimes I push back without even knowing I'm pushing back. But I do think that, remember when I came into Aspire, I came as a receptionist, and then I've had to work my way up. So I've had the mentorship, and I think, in the beginning, I was the only female in the company besides for one of the directors. But in the last few years, especially since Mushfiqa's been on board, she pushes for us to explore our own boundaries. I've definitely noticed a shift. And I don't want to say that there's a little bit more respect for the fact that I know what I'm talking about sometimes, where I think in the past it would have been, if it was a male that maybe came up with the idea, that's a good idea. Now I feel it's more even the playing
And
field.
just for context, Mushfiqa that Veruska alluded to is my business partner. Yeah, I think that's also, and I'll give you a male context on that, is that I think that, in the last 10, 15 years, 20 years, whatever it is, there's become a realization that, things need to be equal. Everyone should have the same opportunities. I think as men, we do sometimes rush to try and push our opinion, but as you say, and perhaps it takes a bit of forcefulness from you guys. But at the same time, it's good to hear that you guys are feeling a little more comfortable. Raisa, in the context of Aspire, have you enjoyed fitting in here, sitting here? How have you found being at Aspire?
It wasn't what I expected, because I wasn't introduced to small companies.
Yes.
So like someone said that you aren't a number, you're like an actual person. and people actually take note of you and your opinion. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I must also tell you, just to come back to this academy, that I've seen a lot of growth in you when you first arrived. The fact that you're sitting here doing this interview is already case in point. But yeah, so a little more about the conference, Veruska. We had a table there, we had a stand there.
We had some interesting ladies come up to us with all various ideas. Raisa even got one of her university lecturers there. And I think the thing I took away from it as well is that there's always opportunity to meet, connect, learn from each other. So the event was more based on women having a breakfast together, very relaxed. Obviously, us having a stand there was very important because people could learn about Aspire and what we offer and what we do. But I touched on it with Raisa earlier. The event was based on equality versus equity.
Okay.
And the way they broke it down was quite interesting. They spoke about that equality is giving everyone a ladder to get mangoes off a tree, but equity is realizing that not everyone has the same means to use the same ladder. So it's about giving those people the resources to also get those mangoes off the tree, but in a different way. That and the fact that they spoke about pivoting your career. I've been here long enough. I've gone down many different avenues at Aspire. And you always think at the age of 36 versus someone who's just finished, her degree, maybe I'm too old to make a change. Maybe I should stick, to what I know. And I think as women, especially when you've got a family, you've got children, you've got other things on your plate, I don't want to say not as career focused, because you are. All the women there had children. They all had outside life issues. They all had their own blockers in life. But it's how they overcame that. And then I just love the word that they said, they pivoted their career. So out of that whole event, the things I took away from that was that you're never too old to change your career. You're never too old to learn or to study and I think the other thing we also learned was that I had a habit of saying this, that's why it was quite funny. And I always said, I work in tech, but I'm not very good at tech. And one of the speakers said, well, actually, we all are. We all use our phone to send emails. We all make appointments on our phones. We are all in tech. It's just how we view that and how we grow in it.
Yeah, I think you've raised a couple of things there. One is, pivoting and being too old to pivot. Believing that you can is important, and it doesn't matter where you're coming from or going to. If I take myself as an example, I was a civil engineer, had practiced as a civil engineer for 10 years, and then made a massive pivot into IT. And I think, now also being even older than you are, substantially, I'm still learning, still pivoting. Technology and ICT can be an overwhelming space. I think you'd agree, Raisa, especially when you're learning. There's so much information, there's so much things out there, and it's ever changing, and that's sometimes quite daunting. I don't know if you think about your journey in terms of your learning at Tech and within the academy. Is there any specific kind of way that you, or what you've enjoyed about us trying to focus on a particular thing and then bringing you up to a point versus trying to find your way in this whole big information space?
I did find it overwhelming because with university experience, they throw so many methods at you. At Aspire Academy, you didn't allow us to go to the next point until you are confident in databases, for example, by actually starting the project instead of going to another point where that's not going to be relevant and then you have to change everything where that part was wrong.
I understand. So it's almost like an approach that says let's focus in on one thing, and then once we're comfortable and competent on that, then we move to the next rather than trying to understand everything in one go.
Yeah, and university is different because you just need a deadline. So you're not even confident in the part that you had to submit, whereas at work you focus on one thing until you are comfortable with it.
Yeah, I totally understand and agree. And I will also say that, again, and it comes back to ICT being overwhelming, is even beyond any formal training, as you learn, it's important to focus in on one thing and try and understand and then push your boundaries on that one thing. Because if you listen to all the noise, you're going to get overwhelmed.
And just touching on what she was talking about, that, I mean, I'm studying part-time, not doing it full-time like she was. And I've asked Raisa for help on some of the projects because it seems like they go back into the history, the theory so far back, and you're thinking, how is this relevant to what I'm actually going to be doing in the office? You're not utilizing it where you are. So even from my stance, coming from a different angle, it's the same. It's very overwhelming getting all this theory and information that you think, how am I going to utilize this as part of what I'm doing currently?
Yeah, it's a challenge. I mean, we could have a podcast on training methods and the way to present content to people. You know, we have a very specific work focused training. You know, we want to get people proficient, productive. But I mean, at the end of the day, the key thing is also, firstly, any learning is good. The other thing that, you know, in the context of Aspire, and I can't really speak for other companies, you guys have had some experience in terms of institutions like the university and so forth, that we have imprinted a certain way of working, you know, and it's an agile, fast approach. We do things to try and get the best out for our clients, and I think you guys have experienced that in your daily workings and in your training, as far as that's concerned. It's important to ultimately identify in yourself where you want to fit in. You know, if a slightly more structured, slow-moving, big company is where you want to be, then that's where you must aim for. If you enjoy the dynamics of a smaller company, slightly more fast-paced, probably slightly less formal, but yet very demanding, then a place like Aspire Solutions is a good place for you. Yeah, guys, so we're getting to the end of this podcast, but yes, so just looking in the context of Aspire Solutions, you know, we started with, as you said, one woman, couple of staff members. We've now got a larger staff complement and a number of women working at Aspire Solutions, and it's women right from senior management, even from ownership, all the way down to young interns. And I think there's an opportunity for you guys to learn from each other. Perhaps as a closing, Veruska, to you, if you could see any change that you would like in the future for women in ICT, and also things that you want and the way you want to approach the next while, could you elaborate on that?
Well, without a doubt, definitely more women within the IT sector. I think women have got big voices and they can make big changes when given the opportunity. Often we have to shout a bit louder to be heard. So I would love in a perfect world to have an even playing field with men and women sometime in the future. But I think personally what I would love to see is when I see the young ladies that are coming out of university or that are even going into school. I look at my daughter who's 8 years old, and we don't know what career opportunities will be available in the future for our children. We cannot prepare them for that. So I'd love for them to have the opportunity from school-going age, especially, I know some schools already have coding classes for kids and things like that. I'd love to see more girls in those programs, and I'd love to see those opportunities build for a future that is brighter for women all around.
So to encourage women to get into technology, keep up with technology, also to level the playing field in terms of their voices and the challenges that they may face in the Verisa. As a closing, you're still enjoying your time at Aspire and perhaps looking forward to changing from an intern into something that's more permanent?
Yes. Yes, hopefully I'm confident enough, yes.
Good. And hopefully you're still enjoying your time here. Guys, thank you very much. Thanks for your time and the conversation. And in closing, this was In Conversation with Aspire Solutions, and we look forward to talking to you again later.